Hey y'all, I'm Mel. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. And today I wanted to share with y'all some mindset shifts that I am taking into 2021 after all of this time of reflection in 2020. So stay tuned. I hope that some of these help you. Be sure to like and subscribe and let me know some of the mindset shifts that y'all are making in 2021. But yeah, I just kind of wanted to share some of my lessons learned and how learning from those lessons has changed how I'm walking into 2021. So let's get into it. So, listen, I'm sitting back. All right. So, the first mindset shift that I think I'm making, I got my notes right here, is that I am not what I do. So, I am walking into 2021 with the mindset that I am not what I do. I am not what I perform. I am not, I can't live by this performance based mentality. And I've lived with that honestly for a while, even being a kid and being smart and being in all these different activities, you can somehow think that that people's love for you is attached to who you are and how you perform. And I even thought that that's how God saw me, that God only liked me if I was doing all of these things, right? Doing the right thing, constantly doing everything right, serving, doing everything and maximizing my time, that constituted my love, the love that I got from God. And I learned in 2020 when I had to sit myself down somewhere that God still loves me when I ain't doing nothing, And I've really had to break out of that performance-based mentality, not just in religion and breaking out of religion and really understanding the grace of God and really understanding relationship with the Father and with the Holy Spirit, but then also when it comes to career and business, understanding that my career and my business are not my purpose. Your career and your business are not your purpose. And I think sometimes we do ourselves a misservice or a disservice when it comes to purpose. We limit God to our careers and our businesses, right? And so when we ask God for our purpose, what we're really asking Him for is for a platform or for a business or for a career or for something that will make our names great, right? But purpose really is not your career and your business. Your career and your business are just assignments of your bigger purpose. And I had to get that through my head that my purpose is just as much attached to my career and my business as it is to my relationship with God, as it is to serving and not getting anything in return, as it is to stewarding the relationships that I have in my life with my family and my friends. When I get to heaven, God's not going to ask me how well I worked on my business. He's going to ask me how I stewarded my life, right? And my life is not limited to what I do. And so I think I'm walking into 2021 with the mindset of my purpose is a holistic part of my life. It's a holistic viewpoint. And yes, God puts us in different assignments. Those assignments can be careers. Those assignments can be businesses. Those assignments can be friendships. They can be relationships. They can be whatever, right? But how are you stewarding all of the assignments that God has given you? And that requires balance. That requires you to come out of this hustle culture that forgets everybody else and just goes towards yours, and to actually steward who you have, what you have, and be consistent with that. And I'll get into that in another mindset shift that I'm making. But yeah, I just had to realize that I'm not what I do, that even if my career falls apart, even if I stop this business tomorrow, these are just assignments. And I think because I've shifted my perspective, God has actually grown my business and my career and my assignments because I'm not attaching them as an identity and they're not taking His place, right? I am in Him first and foremost. And without everything else, I'm still an heir to the throne. I'm still His. I'm still loved by Him, right? And so because I have that root, now the growth that you're seeing, now the things that I'm able to accomplish, that's just fruit from what I'm already rooted in, if that makes sense. And so because I've shifted that mentality of my identity being centered in God versus the things that I do, that I'm actually able to see them rightly and do them well and have more balance in my life, again, because I'm not so tied to the career or to the business or to the podcast or to the platform or to how many followers I have or to, whatever it is that you feel like you may be finding your purpose in. So you are not what you do. If you're a business owner, that's amazing. God is using you, but that is just one assignment. So don't limit yourself, because then when you limit yourself to that one business, there may be all these other things that God wants to do in your life as a part of his plan for you, but you can't even experience that because you're only focused on that one thing. And so shifting my mindset from this performance-based mentality to really a place of rest and knowing that I'm not what I do, and because of that, God can actually use me to do what he wants to do through me, right? And so that's a mindset shift that I'm making. That kind of goes into the number 2 mindset shift that I'm making, and that is understanding that success is based on my consistency. It is not based on my following. Again, success is based on my consistency. It is not based on my following. And again, when I get to heaven, God's not going to ask me how many followers were you able to get on Instagram? How many subscribers did you get on YouTube? He's not going to ask me that. He's going to ask me, were you faithful with what I gave you? It reminds me of the story of the parable of talents. And I'll put up here somewhere where you can go find it in the Bible. But pretty much this master gave these 3 servants each different amount of talents. And I think it was 5 talents, 5 or 10 talents. 2, he gave one person 2 talents, and he gave another person 1 talent. I think, go verify, child. I ain't no theologian. But he gave them different sets of talents. And my point is that the person with 2 talents didn't ask the master, why you ain't give me 5, right? And the person with 1 talent didn't ask the master, why you ain't give me 10? The person with 1 talent didn't do anything with the 1 talent, and then he was thrown out, right? And so I think it's the same way where sometimes I can say, well, and I've said this before, when I first started my blog back in 2017, I based my consistency on whether or not somebody was responding. So whether or not somebody responded to my newsletter, or whether or not somebody commented on my blog post, or whether or not somebody commented on my post, I would allow my consistency to be fluctuated by people's opinions and their validations. And God can't allow that to thrive, right? He's good. He's good enough to not allow people's opinions to drive what you're doing. So that's why he allowed that blog to fail. That's why he allowed that first business plan to fail, because it was rooted in needing other people's validations to thrive. And so I had to learn that my success is not based off of who is responding to my comments, or who is responding to my posts, or who's responding to this YouTube channel. My success is based off of my obedience and my consistency, and being okay with that one. Now, do I believe that God's going to allow it to grow? Of course, but it's not based off of my standard. It's based off of what he wants to do, right? And how he wants to use me and call me out to help other people. And so I think that we have to, wanting followers and wanting to grow, I don't think is bad. It's not bad at all. I think that it's good to believe in your plan so much that you believe God's going to elevate it and multiply it. Absolutely, that's fine. Again, what is your heart posture behind that, right? Why do you want to grow, right? Do you need that validation to fill you, or is it something that you feel like God is giving you, or giving you a mantle for, right? But again, God's not going to ask me about my following. He's going to ask me about my consistency. And so instead of being, disappointed as far as the lack of responses that I may be getting, or the support that I may feel like I don't have, really stewarding what God has given me and really being consistent in that, and knowing that if I helped one person, then I did what I was supposed to do. And if no one responds, I still did what I was supposed to do, and I have to understand that hearing "well done, good and faithful servant" in the end is more important than the temporary gratification of someone's like or comment or share or encouraging word, And so I think, again, shifting my mindset again has now given space for God to move and for God to grow it and for God to, really download more into me, because I feel like now he's able to trust me with more, because again, it's not based on your opinions. Because I don't need your validation, I can serve you better, because I don't need your validation. I'm just serving from an overflow of what God has given me, right? But I don't need your validation. And because of that, I can serve you rightly. I can serve you from a sober mind, not being drunk with the, with the approval of people and needing their validation, right? And so that's a mindset shift that I'm making. I bet I was long-winded, but moving from thinking that my success is limited to my following, and really understanding that success is based on my obedience and consistency with what I have. So then, my third mindset shift that I'm making, I would say, is understanding when it comes to business, or when it comes to career, or just following other people's advice, that their strategy is not the strategy. And I've had to make that shift more so in my business, because, you have some business coaches that teach you that you have to niche down, that you have to super niche, and you can only succeed if you have a niche, and you can only succeed and grow your platform if you're posting every single day. And there are all these different stipulations that people are placing on us, or trying to place on us, because that's what worked for them. And that's great. I'm not knocking those strategies. A lot of those strategies are great and are good, and I use some of them, but I can't be so tied to their strategy that I'm not listening to what God is asking me to do, right? Is it better for me to just post 5 times because that's what somebody else is telling me to do? Or is it better for me to post 3 times because that's when I've heard from God to then speak out to somebody else, right? And so I think that I'm learning that I'm not limiting myself. Again, even when it comes to niching down, for me, that doesn't work. Like, I know what I'm good at, and I'm able to communicate, even though I do multiple things, I'm able to communicate in a way that it still makes sense to my audience. But then at the same time, I'm just not a niche down type of person. I like having my hands in different things, and I function better in that than being limited into a box. And so, because again, that works for me, I chose not to niche down, and I have my things that I focus on. And again, I focus on my messaging so that it's clear to my audience and to the people that are buying from me, or to clients and customers and things like that. But I think that just goes to show that you have to be, again, tapped in with the Holy Spirit and do what he's asking you to do, even if it's unpopular. There are things in my business that I'm doing that people aren't doing right now. And I just have to trust that God is leading me to be a future solution. Even though I can't see it right now, I know specifically what he's asked me to do. And so I can't be so tied to someone else's strategy that I'm not open, again, to what God wants to do that's new. Right? It doesn't make it better than anyone else's. It doesn't make them better than me, but God uses us in different ways. And so we have to be open to that. And so that's a mindset shift that I'm making, knowing that their strategy is not the strategy, right? Taking what I need, but then leaving what doesn't work for me. And so that's a mindset shift. The fourth one is really valuing deep connections over just trying to be everything for everybody. I've talked about this on my podcast, as well as I think maybe in my earlier blogs, but I've really struggled. If there's anything that I've had to heal from most in my life, is from rejection, and really understanding that aside from what people do, or how they treat me, or how they abandon me, or how they're not there for me the way that I need them to be, or feeling just rejected, even in school as a kid, in different situations and scenarios where I felt rejected, that no matter how people treat me, I know who I am in God, and I know that I'm already accepted, known, and loved by God. And that's the biggest thing that I have to walk through every single day. Healing is not a destination. It's a daily walk with God. It's a daily walk through therapy. It's a daily walk through whatever channel God has given to do that process and to do that work with. But it's a daily process. And so what I am learning, and from 2020 to 2021, when of course people fall away, when you go into quarantine and you've just been with people by association, and now you no longer have those associations, are y'all still friends, right? When you've had to really think through, when you've needed people to pray for you, and the people you thought were going to be there aren't there anymore. When you've been going through different things in your family and your career and your business, and you see now who's really going to be there and who's not. And I don't think that everybody is meant to be like your best friend. There's levels to it. There's levels of access. People serve different purposes. But every connection should have a purpose. And I realized that there were some connections that I had that didn't really serve a purpose, and it didn't really serve to where I was going. There are some people who can only relate to their version of you. And as you grow, they just can't grow with you. And again, it doesn't make you any better than they are, right? We're called to love our brothers and our sisters and to treat them as we treat ourselves, right? But sometimes loving someone requires space. Sometimes loving someone requires you guarding your heart and and not letting them into certain places because it's going to be harmful to them and to you. And so really being really cognizant and mindful of the deep connections that God has placed in my life today, and not just attaching myself to people based off of history or because they're a Christian and I'm a Christian. We got to be best friends, right? But really asking God, who are the people in my life that can really go with where you're taking me today? And it doesn't mean that those other people are not my friends anymore, but again, really valuing those deep connections over spreading myself too thin and trying to be everything for everybody. And now I'm not able to really be effective with what God has asked me to do and called me to do in this season. So really valuing deep connections is a mindset shift that I'm making. And I got my note there. The last one is, I'll end with this one. The last one is to just do it and to allow my belief to not be something that I speak, but to be something that I live out. Belief is an action verb. And it's something that, a lot of people say just do it. And a lot of people say just start. But what I found is that the things that I didn't start or didn't do or didn't step out on wasn't because I didn't have the time to do it. It wasn't because I didn't want to do it. It was because I really dealt with unbelief in my heart. When you've been disappointed, when you've experienced failure, when you've experienced grief, you've tried something and it's failed, and you try something else and it's failed. And every time you take a step forward, you take 2 steps back. That's grief. Right? Grief can easily build up, and it gets you to a point where it's like, I don't really want to try it again. Or maybe, yes, I'm going to do it, Laura. I'm going to try it. I'm going to go for it. But then you find time to do everything else, right? You now don't have time for it, right? And so, it's those secretive ways that unbelief can sneak in. And I think that a lot of times we talk about, I love Jesus or I believe in Jesus, but what do your actions show? Right? If you really believe that Jesus died and raised 3 days later, and that the spirit that raised Jesus from the dead lives on the inside of you, what does your life reflect? Right? I'm not just talking about the good deeds and not sinning, right? But again, does your life reflect, and does your mindset reflect that you have the Spirit of God living in you? If so, then why do you still think you lack? Why do you still think that you're a failure? Why do you still think that you're not able to do what God has called you to do? And again, you may not be saying that, but what do your actions show? What does your time look like? What does your schedule look like? Very practically, right? Do we actually believe what we say through our daily actions? And I had to realize that God has given me the grace to do a lot of things that I'm just not doing because I don't want to be disappointed again, or I don't want to do it because I don't really believe in it anymore, and my feelings aren't in it, and my passion isn't in it anymore. So because I'm not passionate about it anymore, now God hasn't called me to do it. And that's not true. That's just grief. A lack of passion a lot of times is just grief. It's just disappointment that has now suppressed that passion, right? Which it really is something that you actually are passionate about, but because you've experienced disappointment in that area over and over again, right? It's suppressed that passion and that love that you have for that thing, whether that be being in relationships, whether that be, and again, trying out a business idea after you've experienced business failures, whether that be trying a new career after you've experienced disappointment, and stepping out and doing something, and now you all of a sudden don't want to do that. What's in there. What's still there. That even when you try to get rid of it, that desire is still there. And again, we have to heal from that grief and that disappointment in order to fully walk in our calling. And so you just have to do it, do it in spite of your feelings. This business that I launched, I didn't feel like launching it. I wasn't excited about launching it like I have with my other businesses that I've tried and failed. I didn't feel it, but I still did it. I didn't want to necessarily do the YouTube channel because I'm like, here I am again. I'm going to be on here and it's going to, partly people are going to respond, but I still did it, right? Because again, my actions and my belief have to outweigh my feelings. And so healing can be in the form of therapy, of getting with God, of self-reflection, but healing can also go through action as you walk it out. So those are some of the mindset shifts that I'm making. Let me know in the comments below some of the mindset shifts that you are making in 2021. I would love to hear them. I may need to adopt some of them myself, but I hope that this encourages you. I'm really just talking. I have my little 3 notes here, but I was really just talking off cuff because I really am, making these shifts and trying to really ingrain this in my mind and in my brain, as I'm walking into 2021. And so, yeah, I love y'all. I hope y'all have an amazing 2021. Praying for y'all. And yeah, stay tuned for my next episode.